take a breath. Let the room still. Feel the quiet settle around you like a veil waiting to be lifted. Because what you are about to hear is not coincidence. It is not random. It is not just another message floating across your screen. This moment has been arranged, not by algorithms, not by accident, but by timing, holy timing, woven deliberately into your path. There are seasons in life when heaven whispers, and then there are rare moments when heaven speaks. Tonight is one of those moments, and the message is not about a distant stranger, not about some symbolic figure or nameless warning. It is about someone who stands close to your heart, someone whose presence touches your daily life, someone whose laughter you know, whose hands you've held, whose voice you've trusted. This message is about your girlfriend. You may not have expected that, but something deep within you reacts the moment you hear those words, because you have felt it, haven't you? Those subtle shifts in the atmosphere, the unspoken tension between conversations, the fleeting moments where something felt off, but you couldn't name it, the quiet, uneasy tug inside your spirit that you dismissed as overthinking. You felt the coldness in her eyes on days when nothing seemed wrong. You sensed a distance that logic could not explain. You caught glimpses of emotions she tried to hide behind a practiced smile. You noticed the pauses, the inconsistencies, the weight in her silence. You told yourself to ignore it, to be patient, to trust, and yet the discomfort would return, softly, persistently, like a warning your soul recognized, even when your mind refused to. Tonight, that inner stirring reaches its revelation. This message is not to accuse her, not to shame her, not to cast her as enemy or betrayer. Heaven does not reveal to destroy. Heaven reveals to protect, to illuminate, to redeem. You are not being invited into conflict. You are being invited into clarity, because something hidden, something fragile, something quietly dangerous to both her and your future has lingered long enough in the shadows. And the Most High has chosen now to lift the veil, not to expose her in anger, but to awaken you in wisdom. This is the moment heaven chose to open your eyes, a moment shaped for you, a moment only you are strong enough to receive, a moment that will define the path ahead, not just for your relationship, but for the spiritual direction of your life. So breathe deeply. Settle your spirit. Let the noise fall away, because as you enter this message, you are stepping into revelation, one designed, orchestrated, and assigned specifically for you. Welcome to the beginning of truth. Welcome to the moment your story shifts. Welcome to the unveiling. Part 1. The moment heaven chose to speak. There are two kinds of time described in Scripture. Chronos, ordinary time, measured by clocks, calendars, and routines. And Kairos, divine time, appointed time, the moment when heaven intervenes in the flow of your life and nothing remains the same afterward. What you are experiencing right now is Kairos, not because you were searching for answers, not because you were looking for warnings, but because heaven decided the waiting was over. A divine moment reveals itself not with thunder, but with timing that cuts through the ordinary. A truth that refuses to stay buried. A stirring that finds you even if you try to ignore it. You felt that stirring for weeks, maybe even months. A restlessness that didn't match your circumstances. A discomfort that appeared between peaceful moments. A sense that something was shifting behind the scenes of your relationship, even when everything looked normal on the surface. That was not paranoia. That was not insecurity. That was not thinking too much. That was discernment. Discernment is the ability to see beyond what the eyes reveal. It is the quiet voice of heaven whispering behind your thoughts, alerting your spirit before danger touches your path. You have been sensing something out of alignment in your girlfriend's world. something subtle, something silent. Something she did not have the courage to speak about, nor the strength to fully face. Heaven has been patient with her, patient with the situation, patient with the choices made in secrecy, hoping a gentle nudge would redirect her steps. But gentle nudges were ignored. Internal warnings went unheeded, and what was once a small misstep became a doorway, one that now brushes against your life, which is why this moment exists. Sometimes God waits, and sometimes God steps in. Tonight, He steps in. Because the path you are walking is too important to lose. Because your heart carries weight in the spiritual realm that you do not fully realize. Because the calling upon your life cannot be compromised by someone else's hidden struggle. Heaven chose this moment because you are spiritually awake enough to hear, even through confusion, even through emotion, even through fatigue. The message arrives not because you are weak, but because your spirit has remained sensitive, able to hear whispers that others would drown in noise, able to feel what others overlook, able to sense the tension between truth and illusion. This sensitivity is not a burden. It is your gift, your protection, your inheritance. And now, that inheritance reveals the truth that has lingered in shadow around your relationship. Not to break you, not to break her, but to break the silence that has lasted too long. This is the moment heaven chose to speak, a moment that tells you, prepare, be steady, be awake, because what has been hidden is about to be revealed. Not by force, not by conflict, but by light. Part 2. The hidden battle behind her smile. Before anything breaks in the natural realm, it trembles first in the spiritual. Before a truth reaches the surface, it struggles in the depths. And before your eyes could see what was coming, your spirit felt it. Your girlfriend has been carrying a weight she never intended you to see. A burden tucked carefully behind practiced expressions, a tremor hidden beneath steady words, a conflict she hoped would simply fade if she ignored it long enough. But souls do not work that way. Secrets do not stay still, and spiritual wounds do not heal in the dark. For months now, specifically around 6 months, something shifted in her. It did not start dramatic. It did not start destructive. It started as a small choice, a seemingly harmless decision, a seed dropped quietly into the soil of her private life. Seeds planted in darkness grow silently, slowly, steadily, out of sight, but never out of consequence. She made a choice she believed she could handle, a curiosity she thought wouldn't matter, a conversation she believed was harmless, an emotion she believed she could control, a moment she thought would disappear on its own. But small seeds do not disappear. They root. And over time, that root began to twist itself around parts of her life she never intended to compromise. She did not mean to hide it from you. She did not set out to deceive you, and she certainly never intended to harm you. But silence can become a trap, and once she stepped into it, she didn't know how to step back out. The truth is this: your girlfriend has been waging a battle you were never meant to fight for her, yet she has kept you close enough to feel its impact. Her laughter changed, not because she loved you less, but because something in her spirit grew heavy. Her responses shifted, not to push you away, but because she began losing peace inside herself. Her eyes dimmed at times, not from guilt alone, but from the exhaustion of carrying something her heart was never built to hide. This is the hidden battle behind her smile. A struggle she hoped would resolve on its own, a knot she hoped would untangle without confession, a shadow she hoped would fade without ever touching your light. But shadows do not respect boundaries. Secrets do not remain contained. What began inside her slowly began to seep into your connection, draining intimacy, altering communication, and creating a quiet fog between two people who once breathed in harmony. This is not a message to call her unfaithful. It is not a message to label her broken. And it is not a message to cast judgment over her heart. It is a message to reveal something essential. She is not your enemy. Her silence is, and heaven reveals her hidden struggle not to shame her, but to protect both of you from the consequences of what grows unchallenged in the dark. There is still hope. There is still mercy. There is still a pathway back to clarity and restoration. But that pathway begins with understanding this simple truth. Something small became something spiritual, and now heaven is bringing it to light, not to break what you have, but to rebuild it on truth. What awaits next is not fear, but revelation, not chaos, but direction, not accusation, but clarity. Prepare your heart, because the unveiling continues. Part 3. Signs you were not imagining. There are moments in a relationship when nothing has been said, yet everything has shifted. Moments when the surface remains calm, but something beneath it is moving, quietly, insistently, unavoidably. You've felt those moments. You've replayed them in your mind. You've questioned your own intuition, wondering whether your heart was sensing truth or simply reacting to fear. But hear this clearly. You were not imagining it. Your spirit noticed what your eyes could not fully explain. There is a language beyond words, a subtle communication that happens through presence, energy, atmosphere, and silence. And your soul, more perceptive than you realized, has been interpreting signals long before your reasoning caught up. You felt something change in the way she looked at you. It was not dramatically, but faintly, like a dimming light behind familiar eyes. You sensed a distance wrapped in politeness. Conversations that used to flow effortlessly now stumbled in places that once felt natural. Moments that should have brought connection instead carried a thin layer of hesitancy. It wasn't coldness, it wasn't rejection, it was a subtle withdrawal. The kind that happens when someone is holding a truth too heavy to share, but too powerful to hide. You noticed how she would pause before answering, how she would avoid certain topics, how her tone carried an echo of distraction even when she said everything was fine. And then there were the silences, the ones that felt louder than words, the ones that carried more weight than any argument ever could. Those silences spoke to you. They brushed against your spirit, they unsettled your peace. And deep down, you knew something was shifting. You felt it during late-night conversations when her voice softened in places it used to be strong. You felt it during moments of affection when her touch carried warmth but also uncertainty. You felt it in the way she sometimes watched you, with love, yes, but also with a sadness she tried to swallow before you could notice. That was not your imagination, that was not insecurity. That was discernment. Discernment is the ability to sense the unseen, to detect emotional imbalance, spiritual disruption, or hidden tension long before it manifests in the physical world. You sensed the spiritual leakage, the way her internal struggle began to seep into the atmosphere around you. It wasn't loud, it wasn't obvious, it was a quiet influence, like a draft in a closed room, a chill you couldn't locate but couldn't deny. You may have felt waves of sudden fatigue around her, or brief moments of emotional emptiness that didn't match the situation. You may have sensed your conversations becoming lighter on the surface, but heavier underneath. You may have noticed that being near her didn't feel the same as it once did. Not because love vanished, but because something unspoken stood between you. Heaven is now confirming what your spirit has been trying to tell you. Your senses were correct. Your intuition was alert. Your soul was responding to spiritual truth. These signs were not random. They were not exaggerated. They were not imagined. They were warnings wrapped in subtlety. Signals placed gently on your path so your heart would not be blindsided by the deeper revelation that is now unfolding. You notice these signs because your spirit remains awake. And that awareness is what prepares you for what comes next. Part 4. The Unseen Realm and Spiritual Interference. Every relationship exists on two levels: the visible world, where words, actions, and expressions live, and the unseen world, where thoughts, intentions, wounds, and spiritual forces quietly shape what the eyes can't yet perceive. Most people pay attention only to the visible, but you, without realizing it, have been watching both. The conflict surrounding your girlfriend did not begin in her behavior. It did not start with a message, a decision, or a moment of weakness. It began long before any of that. In the hidden realm, the place Scripture calls the unseen, where the real battles are fought and won. Something opened in her life. Not a dramatic doorway, but a small spiritual crack. A moment of vulnerability, a moment where emotion overwhelmed discernment. A moment where she reached for something she believed would comfort her, but it only complicated her spirit. And in that small moment, a doorway was formed. Doorways in the spiritual realm don't look like the ones we see in the physical. They aren't violent, obvious, or loud. They appear through emotional wounds, unresolved fears, unspoken insecurities, and quiet compromises. A doorway can form from loneliness, from frustration, from feeling misunderstood, from seeking validation in the wrong place at the wrong time, from believing, even for a brief second, that she had to carry her pain alone. These doorways don't just affect the one who opened them. They begin to affect everything connected to them, including you. That is why you began to feel the shift, even before anything surfaced in the natural world. Not because she stopped loving you, but because something spiritual had begun to interfere with the harmony between your souls. Heaven saw it. The angels witnessed the tension growing. Warnings were sent to her in subtle forms. Moments of conviction, uneasy dreams, fleeting thoughts telling her to step back, to tell the truth, to choose the light. But she hesitated. Not out of rebellion, but out of fear. Fear of hurting you. Fear of losing you. Fear of facing the consequences of a small decision that grew too heavy to hold. And so the interference continued. Not demonic possession, not darkness consuming her, but a spiritual imbalance. Like static in the atmosphere, a disruption that began affecting the connection between the two of you. This is why her presence felt different. Why conversations felt suspended in invisible tension. Why her emotions were unpredictable one day and numb the next. Why you sensed heaviness during moments that used to feel effortless. This is spiritual interference. The kind Scripture warns about, the kind Paul speaks of when he says, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood." Your girlfriend is not the enemy. Your relationship is not the enemy. The interference is the enemy. Heaven never reveals a hidden battle to humiliate someone, but to redeem what is still savable. And what is happening now is this. Heaven is stepping in. The interference is being exposed, the doorway is being closed, and you are being prepared. Your clarity is not accidental. Your awareness is not coincidence. Your discernment is not imagination. It is God's hand guiding you, pulling you back from confusion, shielding you from unnecessary wounds, and positioning you for a truth that will not break you, but build you. The unseen realm has already begun shifting in your favor. The interference has reached its limit, and the Most High is now revealing what your spirit has sensed all along. Part 5. What will surface within 3 days? When heaven decides to lift a veil, it rarely begins with thunder. It begins with something small, something almost invisible to the untrained eye, something you might overlook if your spirit were not already awake. And now that your discernment has been stirred, the next phase of revelation begins. Within the next 3 days, not months, not weeks, but days, a sign will emerge. It will not be dramatic. It will not be explosive. It will not be the kind of thing that demands immediate confrontation. Instead, it will be subtle, quiet, almost ordinary, yet spiritually unmistakable. You might see a message that doesn't match her usual behavior, a notification that feels out of place, a name that returns after being gone for too long. A conversation cut short when you enter the room, a shift in her tone during a routine interaction, a moment of hesitation when she thinks you're not watching. It could be something as simple as her phone lighting up at an unusual hour, or a moment where she seems startled by something she reads, or a question she asks you that feels out of context, or even a distant look in her eyes that wasn't there before. To anyone else, it would be nothing, a trivial detail, a normal, everyday occurrence. But to your spirit, to the part of you heaven has awakened, it will be the first crack of light breaking through the veil. This small sign is not meant to alarm you. It is meant to prepare you, because what appears insignificant in the natural realm is often monumental in the spiritual realm. Heaven works differently. God rarely reveals truth through chaos. He reveals it through clarity, gentle clarity, quiet clarity, clarity that strengthens rather than shatters. When the sign appears, do not react quickly, do not accuse, do not jump to conclusions. Do not let emotion lead you into territory designed for discernment. Instead, breathe. Let the moment pass through you. Let your spirit register its meaning without letting your mind sprint ahead. Because at that exact moment, something in the unseen realm will begin shifting in your favor. This sign will not be the revelation itself. It will be the signal that the revelation is approaching. Consider it the whisper before the voice, the flicker before the flame, the knock before the door is opened. And once you see it, once your spirit recognizes it, the next phase will awaken. Within 48 hours after that, your atmosphere will begin to change. You will feel it in your emotions. You will sense it in her presence. You will notice it in the way conversations unfold. You will feel a spiritual current turning toward you. Not because she decided to tell the truth, but because heaven initiated the unveiling. These next 3 days are not to be feared. They are to be watched carefully, honored reverently, and approached with spiritual maturity. A sign is coming, and when it appears, your heart will know, this is it. This is the beginning. This is the crack in the silence. You will not be caught off guard. You will not be blindsided. You will not be left confused, because heaven always reveals the first light before exposing the entire truth. And you, beloved listener, are now standing at the threshold of that light. Part 6. The confrontation heaven is preparing you for. There will come a moment, quiet, steady, unmistakable, when the world around you grows still, and you will know that the time has arrived. Not for conflict, not for accusation, but for truth. Heaven has been aligning this moment long before you sensed anything was wrong. It will not look explosive. It will not come with shouting. It will unfold like a calm before the dawn, a clarity settling over your spirit that you did not create and could not force. This is the confrontation heaven is preparing you for. Not a confrontation of anger, but a confrontation of revelation. It will begin gently, perhaps through an unexpected conversation, a question she asks you, or a moment where she seems unusually vulnerable. The door will not open violently. It will open softly, like a truth that has grown too heavy to remain hidden. In this moment, your strength will not be proven by what you say, but by what you refuse to say. Your silence will carry more weight than accusation ever could. Your calm will speak louder than any confrontation. Your presence will expose what her words cannot. Heaven is not asking you to raise your voice. Heaven is asking you to raise your discernment. Think of Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus. When he discovered Mary was with child and the situation made no sense, Scripture tells us he considered stepping away quietly, not because he lacked love, but because he sought righteousness. And in that quiet place, God intervened. God sent clarity. God exposed truth without demanding Joseph to fight for it. This is the posture you are being prepared for. You will stand in a place where your peace speaks louder than your frustration, where your restraint reveals what your words never needed to, where your understanding opens a doorway for heaven to move in ways human confrontation never could. When the moment arrives, notice how she behaves. She may look away, she may avoid eye contact, she may sigh with the weight of what she can no longer carry, or she may look at you with trembling eyes, torn between fear and relief. Fear of hurting you, relief that the silence is finally breaking. She may try to deflect, to laugh it off, to shift the conversation, to downplay what you already know in your spirit. Do not be shaken. Truth does not need to fight to be seen. It simply needs to be allowed to breathe. Do not rush her. Do not corner her. Do not force confession. Your role at that moment is not to demand the truth. Your role is to create the atmosphere where truth cannot hide. Your calm becomes her mirror. Your steadiness becomes her conviction. Your silence becomes the light that exposes what darkness once covered, and heaven will do the rest. Within 24 hours of this conversation, subtle or direct, complete or incomplete, truth will begin to unfold in ways she cannot stop, cannot silence, and cannot escape. Heaven is preparing this confrontation not to destroy, but to refine. Not to break her, but to break the influence of the secret. Not to end the relationship, but to end the deception surrounding it. This confrontation is not a battlefield. It is a threshold, a place where what was hidden becomes visible, a place where what was fragile becomes addressable, a place where what was toxic becomes removable, a place where love is tested, not by comfort, but by truth. And the moment it arrives, you will know. Not because of what she says, but because of what your spirit feels. A shift, a clearing, a soft unveiling. Heaven will guide your posture. Heaven will guard your heart. Heaven will direct your words. And heaven will ensure the truth is revealed with precision, without chaos, without destruction. You are not walking into conflict. You are walking into alignment. Part 7. The spiritual roots of her hidden struggle. No one wakes up one morning and decides to create distance in a relationship that once felt safe. No one chooses silence without first being overwhelmed by something they didn't know how to carry. And your girlfriend, despite what you've sensed, has not acted out of malice. She has acted out of pain, pain she never told you about, pain she barely admits to herself. What she is hiding is not a secret meant to betray you. It is a wound she tried to handle alone. Her struggle began long before the moment you sensed something was wrong. Not in her actions, not in a conversation, not in a single decision, but in something deeper. A spiritual root formed through unresolved emotion. Every wound, if left unattended, becomes a doorway. Not always to darkness in the cinematic sense, but to confusion, fear, misguided choices, and emotional imbalance. Your girlfriend carries a story. One she rarely talks about, one she may think is insignificant, but one that shaped more of her behavior than she realizes. There was a moment in her past. Maybe a betrayal, maybe a disappointment, maybe a fear of being too vulnerable, that left a crack in her heart. She thought the crack would heal on its own. She believed time would mend it, but time does not heal what truth has never touched. So she tucked it away. She hid it beneath confidence, beneath routine, beneath the version of herself she wanted to present. And then, months ago, something or someone brushed against that old wound. A memory resurfaced, a feeling returned, a fear whispered. An insecurity woke up. At that moment, she reached for what felt comforting, a distraction, a familiar voice, a habit, a small decision that seemed harmless. But emotional wounds do not respond to shortcuts, and the decision she made opened the very doorway she hoped to avoid. This is the root of her struggle. Not disloyalty, not a lack of love, not a plan to deceive you. It is the collision of an old wound with a new temptation. She has been battling herself, her guilt, her confusion, her fear of hurting you, her fear of being exposed, her desire to protect the relationship combined with her inability to fix the things she created. She is not spiritually corrupted. She is spiritually overwhelmed. She is not hiding because she wants to lie. She is hiding because she doesn't know how to heal. She has told herself, if I pretend everything is fine, it will go away. But wounds don't disappear when ignored. They deepen. That deeper layer is what you've been sensing, her sudden changes in mood, her emotional distance, her unusual silence, her overcompensation on certain days, her unpredictability on others. She's trying to hold two worlds together, the world where everything looks normal, and the world where the truth quietly eats at her peace. This tug-of-war has become her private torment. But now, heaven is stepping in to stop the spiral before it spreads further into your relationship and your destiny. You need to understand this. She did not intend to hurt you. She intended to protect you from her struggle, but in doing so, she unknowingly created a spiritual imbalance that you have been feeling all along. This part is not about justifying her choices. It is about understanding her humanity, her fragility, and the spiritual mechanics behind her silence. Because you cannot face what's coming next, the exposure, the healing, the restoration, without first understanding the roots beneath it. The unseen wounds explain the visible shifts. The hidden fear explains the spiritual leakage. And the spiritual doorway explains why heaven has chosen to intervene now. Clarity begins with compassion. Truth begins with understanding. Healing begins when you see beyond behavior and into the soul. And now that you understand the root of her struggle, you are ready for what heaven will reveal next. Conclusion: the new beginning. And now, as this journey draws to its close, take a moment to breathe, to sit in the stillness that now surrounds you, to recognize that something within you has shifted. Quietly, deeply, permanently. You began this message with questions, with tension in your spirit, with a weight you could not name. But now you stand in a place of clarity, a place of understanding, a place where truth has met you gently and light has found its way into the corners that once held uncertainty. This message was never meant to condemn her. It was never meant to break you. It was meant to reveal what needed to be seen so healing could finally begin. Every hidden struggle, every unspoken fear, every subtle sign, every stirring in your spirit, they have led you to this moment of awakening. And now, heaven extends something precious to you, a new beginning, not a reset fueled by denial, but a realignment grounded in truth, not a return to what was, but a step into what can be. Stronger, clearer, cleaner, protected. You have seen what many choose to ignore. You have faced what others run from. You have carried the weight of revelation with quiet strength. And because of that, something powerful has been released over your life. This new beginning is not just for the relationship, though healing is possible and redemption is near. This new beginning is for you. Your discernment has matured. Your spirit has sharpened. Your awareness has deepened. The fog has lifted, and the path that once felt uncertain now stretches before you with clarity and purpose. You are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into alignment. You are not stepping into fear. You are stepping into wisdom. You are not stepping into loss. You are stepping into divine protection. A new chapter is opening, a chapter where love is strengthened by truth, where peace replaces confusion, where your spirit leads you with confidence rather than doubt. Whatever happens next, whether it leads to reconciliation, to rebuilding trust, or to choosing a healthier path, you will not walk into it blindly. You will walk into it empowered. Because the light has come, because truth has spoken, because heaven has revealed what was hidden. And now, your story continues, not in the shadows, but in the brightness of a new dawn. You have reached the threshold. The old season is behind you. A new beginning awaits. Step into it with steady hands. Step into it with a clear mind. Step into it with a guarded heart and an awakened spirit. You are ready. You are aligned. You are chosen. And your new beginning starts now.